It is 5:30 p.m. and I will call to order the March 25, 2019 meeting of the MISD Board of Trustees. We will begin with a moment of silence followed by the pledge to the U.S. flag and Texas flags. Unfortunately, our cadet called in with a family emergency, so we hope that all goes well with that, and we hope to see that cadet at next month's or some other future meeting. So you'll have to listen to me this time to lead us, and I apologize for that. But at first, if you'll join me in a moment of silence. Thank you. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Okay, I'm informed that the ringing sound that you're fortunate to hear it, means you have good hearing, but unfortunately there is a problem and they're trying to address it. So hopefully it will be addressed before it goes much further. Meantime, we'll plow ahead. But first, before we get to agenda item number 2, I'd like to call on Mr. Marquez. I think he'd like to recognize some students that are in our audience this evening. Mr. Marquez?
Yes, we'd like to take time and recognize 3 students that are being diligent with their class at early college, and they're here for to meet some requirements for their Texas government class, which is awesome that, students have the interest to come up here and take the time to see this, because it's obviously very important for them to understand how school functions and what we're trying to do for not only them, the other kids that are in our system. So anyway, I'll just take time and thank you for coming. And one of them is going to be shadowing me at work in May. So I also get the word out that there's somebody wants to provide an opportunity of having a student shadow them at work for whatever industry you're in. Reach out to the district, and maybe you can find a student that'll come to you, and I'm sure they'll be willing to come see you at work. So, all right.
Students, if you want to stand up and be recognized, thank you for coming. Welcome. We appreciate you being here. Thank you. All right, now we'll turn back to our agenda. Agenda item number 2A, 2020 census information from the Department of Commerce, U.S. Census Bureau. Mr. Vasquez, welcome.
Hey, Rick. Brian wants a timer.
Members of the board, Superintendent Riddick, thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to be here before you this evening. My name is Gilbert Vasquez. I'm a recently trained partnership specialist with the Census. Right here with me is Mr. Roque Agum, who will do most of the presentation for us tonight. But we do thank you for this opportunity. Mr. Agum?
Welcome. Thank you for being here.
All right, Board of Trustees, Superintendent, thank you very much again for allowing us to come out to brief you on what's going on here in the Permian Basin area, and to specifically ask for your support for the 2020 census. Superintendent Riddick, I believe that we did not meet, but you were at the presentation at the ESCA team meeting that we had in February. The partnership specialists in the El Paso area census office have been very active in this area, meeting this morning with Midland and having a resolution passed in support of the 2020 census. Also the meeting with all the superintendents of the ESCA team, and now we're doing our outreach to independent school districts and the surrounding counties and ISDs as well. As I begin the presentation, I just want to take a quick minute to let you know where we are in terms of the area census office that El Paso has. We are part of the 12-state Denver region, so we deal with man-camp issues all across. We deal with minority issues all across, minority count issues. The main goal of our efforts right now is to identify hard-to-count populations and get them counted. Count them once, count them where they need to be, and count them in the right place. The El Paso Area Census Office covers 16 counties, from El Paso all the way east to Midland and Ector, and south to Terrell and Brewster, and everything in between. So what's at stake for the 2020 census? As you may or may not know, we are in the process of educating community leaders first, reaching out to government leaders and developing what we call complete count committees. The census, why we do it, it's constitutionally mandated to have everybody counted in the United States every 10 years. Citizen, non-citizen, documented, undocumented, every person that resides in the United States. How we use this information? We use it for congressional apportionment, the voting districts, ISD voting districts, all the way down to that level. Specifically towards federal government dollars that this ISD and every ISD across the state and nation count on. Not just for the school-related federal government dollars and those programs, but also for transportation, Medicare, Medicaid, elderly care, disabled care, the list goes on and on. In terms of apportionment, when we get the count out, communities gain. Conversely, when we do not get the count out, communities lose. Not only do you lose federal government dollars, we have potential to lose congressional representation. In 2010, Texas picked up 4 seats. Some states lost. In 2020, we anticipate 3 to 4 extra congressional seats for Texas, and we want to make sure we maintain that momentum, and that's why we're here. Federal funding for Texas, based upon a George Washington University study in 2015, and the fiscal year dollars that went out in terms of how census data is used to determine those grants, $43 billion earmarked at the state of Texas from federal funding. That comes down to close to $1,600 per person times 10 years. What's at stake? It's federal government dollars and the services that are delivered to our constituencies from that. Our goals for the 2020 census are to maintain quality, to reduce costs, and doing that with 4 areas of innovation. Efficiency in building that address list, our master list, which is something that's beginning this summer. Easier ways to respond. For example, first time ever in the history of the census, will the questionnaire be available online? Scary thought, but a lot of field work has been done in terms of IT to make sure data is confidential, remains that way, and so do identities in the process of filling out that questionnaire online. Using information we already have and delivering more efficient field operations, and that really involves self-response. And we pushed self-response in March of 2020. The more people that respond online, the less enumerators that need to go out and the less taxpayer dollars that get spent. As I mentioned, we have a new ability to self-respond starting March 23, 2020. The internet, the phone, and the paper forms traditional. We get the question often, why are you here now? At this point, we're the U.S. Census, Department of Commerce, we're educating, engaging, creating awareness amongst community leaders, organizations like yourselves, so we can start developing that community outreach plan at your level, at that local grassroots level, and implementing that by the spring of 2020, which will coincide with the launch of the national campaign. The Area Census Office, 3177 El Paso, as I mentioned, 16 counties. We are part of the Community Partnership and Engagement Program, and we are here to ask you to consider forming a complete count committee. We would ask the board to allow the superintendent to work with the U.S. Department of Commerce, our liaisons, ourselves here, to develop a complete count committee. What is a complete count committee? A complete count committee is one of the most effective tools used by the Department of Commerce to effectuate that outreach plan that's driven by local leaders, by trusted community voices, for the benefit of identifying and conveying that message to hard-to-count populations, the students, the single mothers, minorities, immigrants, veterans, disabled, homeless. These hard-to-count populations need to be counted. Transient populations, especially in regards to man camps here and their families. So that whole objective, that purpose of that committee is to come together amongst themselves with the highest elected officials, with the support of the census, to do training, to identify how best to communicate to all these different groups. We have a Midland County and City of Midland Joint Complete Count Committee. They will have a subcommittee on education. Chances are you will be invited to participate in that, along with the outreach efforts we'll be doing with the higher ed. So UTPB, Midland College, Odessa College, we're on our way to Odessa College after this meeting. But what you will have is a series of subcommittees focused on those hard-to-count specific populations to come up with a working plan to communicate that outreach and importance of it to the community, that specific community. We have our goals, we have our challenges, we want to motivate people to respond, we want to assure respondents that that data is confidential and secure, educate the community, and that begins here with the importance and supporting communities in their mobilization efforts, getting people to actually be counted, to fill out that questionnaire. Since we have the internet for the first time, having facilities that have free Wi-Fi, that's a big help. Coordinating that with the census so that folks could be invited, constituencies could come in, use the Wi-Fi with guidance and advice in terms of how to fill out the questionnaire. That's what we're here for, explore those kind of opportunities. The Community Engagement and Partnership Program has census staff on a national and local level, working hand in hand with the state government leaders like yourself. We also have data tools to help you know more about your community from a census data perspective. We could zero in on specific tracks and tell you demographics, etc. That's part of the training that we offer to help you develop your campaign. We have partnership toolkits available online for branding purposes. You go to census.gov/partners. For statistics in schools, these are activities created on a national level, K through 12, not curriculum. Suggested, recommended activities just to create awareness for the students and the teachers, the school, if you will, to help us create that awareness about the census and why it's important. The media and advertising campaign will begin in spring of 2020. We even have local campaigns that are already on starting. We'll get some help with it. If we just press that up. This is what El Paso did with good PSA, if you don't mind. So we're encouraging communities, organizations to develop this kind of material. This was done by the city of El Paso. So we can let you look at that another time. Right? What's important is in terms of next steps, really. You know, we're here to ask for your support, one, for the 2027. Well, there you go. It gets better.
Every 10 years in the United States counts every year is called the census. We need your help to count everyone. The information you provide is protected by law. The 2020 census is coming. Everyone needs to be counted. We need everyone to be counted because it's happening for transportation funds, more housing funds, more health care funds. A lot of voice in the U.S.
this kind of creative project is encouraged, right? So this is the product of the city and county coming together, forming a complete count committee, community leaders, state level, community organizations, all brainstorming, the city leveraging their resources that they have within the public affairs department and building their own campaign for their kickoff. And so they're just starting that, and we're encouraging the same here in the Midland County area, Permian Basin, all across the Permian Basin and West Texas region. So specifically, what we want to do is ask you to take a leadership position on the 2020 census. Get your blessing to work closely with the superintendent and his team to develop a complete count committee to include the 26,000 students you'll have throughout the early college prep, the high schools, the elementary, middle school, etc., to develop something that is for you and by you. There is no golden template, no special framework, some basics and best practices, but every community gets to do their own. And the ISD, as big as Midland, we'd appreciate if we'd be given that opportunity. We have jobs. We understand Midland, Odessa area, the McDonald's dishwasher makes $18 an hour. So we're competitive, $23 an hour. Hoping that we get some applicants for the positions that we have for enumeration, etc. We need your help. If you don't mind helping us, we'd like to help you get your count out here. To the best of our abilities, count everybody once down in the right place. With that, I'll stand for your questions.
I've got a question. You mentioned ManCat. How does that, I mean, I don't get into the weeds with it, but how do you foresee counting people when we have people from Louisiana and obviously quite a few other states here working that are being migrant as far as going and coming, and it's moving faster than, I mean, you might count them this year, but they might not be here next year, or you can count them in 2019 and they might not be here in 2019 showing up in 2020 type deal.
That's complicated one, trustee. So what we are doing as a 12-state Denver region, because the Permian Basin in West Texas, Texas as a state is not the only petroleum and gas community that we have in the 12-state Denver region. Dealing with counting land camps, that issue goes all the way up to Montana and North Dakota as well. So we are actively working with Rep. Conway's office and the Midland Chamber of Commerce to invite the petroleum and gas company leadership, entities, organizations to a meeting in May so we can sit down and discuss what is the best way to count the man. On one side of the street, they say, well, count everybody and their kids, even if the kids are in Oklahoma, because that money comes from Permian Basin. Well, Oklahoma might have something to say about that, right? So developing a strategy for that is exactly what we're in the process of doing. Does that answer your question?
Yep. Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, thank you very much. This is not an action item, but it is. There was an opportunity to hear about the program and what your request is to the district. So thank you very much. We appreciate the information. Good luck to you. Thank you. All right, agenda item 2B, Midland Retired Teachers Association, volunteer hours. Welcome.
The check represents 34,179 volunteer hours that Midland School District retirees reported in 2018. There was many more that didn't get reported, but they actually documented it. The federal rate for a volunteer hour for 2018 was $24.69 per hour, and that translates to $843,879.51 of unpaid dollars that retired school personnel contributed to the city of Midland in 2018. The contributions made by these individuals make a great impact in our community. We want to thank you for allowing us to share this information with you and to show our appreciation to the volunteers who continue to serve the citizens in need.
Well, thank y'all very much. Thank you. We very much appreciate all the volunteer hours. Thank you very, very much. All right, next 2C, School Board Appreciation. Ms. Ladd, welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, Board President Davis, Board of Trustees, and Mr. Cadet. My name is Elena Ladd. I'm the Chief Communications Officer for the district. And I'm here tonight to talk about board service projects. As you may know, January was School Board Recognition Month, and Midland ISD joined the school districts across the state to demonstrate our appreciation for the countless efforts and hours you all contribute. Over 38 different service projects were completed by students in honor of trustees, and a complete list of those is in your packet. Right now, we have Dr. Gamboa of Paskin Elementary and Dr. Seibert of Abel Junior High to share what their specific campuses did. Dr. Gamboa?
Board President Davis, Trustee Superintendent Riddick, thank you for the opportunity to celebrate the great things that are happening at Faskin Elementary and for your continued support of our campus and community. In the spirit of appreciation, the Faskin family completed 2 projects honoring the service of our board member, Mr. Brian Murray. First, our campus, in conjunction with our community partners, raised over $40,000 for the Seeing Eyes Pennies for Pup program. Because of this donation, we're giving the opportunity to name a service pup to be born in spring 2020, named Murray, in honor of Mr. Murray. Second, we raised money for pancreatic cancer research and awareness.
Blind dog.
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah, I didn't know I was controlling it. Let's just see. And here we are. For pancreatic research and awareness, our campus goal was $1,500. As an added incentive to reach this goal, I agreed to dye my hair purple if the students surpass this goal. I don't know what I was thinking. Our students raised over $60,000, and the rest is history. And even though my purple hair is history, we're hoping those seeds of giving last forever in our students. I want to thank you again, Mr. Murray, for your continued support of Faskin Elementary and MISD. Thank you. Oh my goodness.
Hi, good evening. Before I begin, I really just want to thank all members of the school board for the amount of time that you give our students. It's truly inspiring. My name is Jennifer Seibert. I'm the outgoing principal of Abel Junior High, new Young Women's Leadership Academy principal, and joining me is Cindy Piles, the new principal of Abel. So we're here today to describe our service project that's a little bit different than some of the other ones that have been done. And so a little bit of background information. A little over a year ago when we were talking about service projects, last year we reached out to Mr. Davis to really see what charity he preferred that we have a service project about. But his response to us was truly inspiring in that he didn't care what we chose as long as we chose something that gave back to the students and parents of Midland ISD. So last year we had a clothes closet at Abel that had never been done before, and that really helped the students at Abel. But this year we wanted to dream a little bit bigger, and so along with the Midland on the Move and the One Town, One Team approach, we partnered with Scarborough Elementary to provide them a little bit of extra support. And so we had block scheduling this year, so our classes are really long, 90 minutes, so a couple of days a week. Every week, our students have gone to Scarborough Elementary to mentor, read with them, let them read, be a second pair of eyes and hands in the classroom to really help those teachers. And so we've done that because Mr. Davis really inspired us with how can we give back to Midland outside of just Abel? How can we help our Midland ISD community? So thank you, Mr. Davis, and other school boards for what you do, other school board members for what you've done for our community.
Thank you very much.
A small token of appreciation.
Oh.
while he's transitioning, I just want to say thank you, especially to Fasken, for not only honoring me, but the honor of recognizing my mom that passed away from pancreatic cancer, and what your goal and what the work that the children do and the teachers really honors my memory and her memory. So I want to appreciate you and say thank you for all you do, not just in this, but what you do every day in the classroom and in the hallways at Fasken. Same way with Lee High School, with Parker Elementary, and with Henderson. I appreciate the work you've done as well in my honor, and we cannot say enough thank you to you for what you do, but it is very kind of backwards that you are honoring us, but we appreciate what you do. So thank you.
Yes, I'd like to echo that. I very much appreciate all the work, Abel, the mentoring program, that's excellent. Appreciate all the good that you're doing. And on behalf of the entire board, thank you for all the school and the campus projects and all the good work that was done through all your projects. We appreciate each and every one of you, and thank you for all the time and effort and the sentiment that went into it. It's our privilege to serve, and we thank y'all for honoring us in this way. Thank you. All right, public forum. We have a single speaker signed up to address us. His name is Grant Billingsley. And Grant would like to represent the Scarborough Foundation and address us on topic 6B, or 6C, the authorization of IDEA Public Schools to operate and manage Travis Elementary as an in-district charter. 6D, the performance contract for IDEA Public Schools to operate and manage Travis. And 6P, lease agreement with IDEA Public Schools. Mr. Billingsley, welcome.
Thank you. President Davis, Trustees, Superintendent Riddick, thanks for letting me be here tonight. This will be the shortest you've probably ever heard me speak. My name is Grant Billingsley, and I'm Executive Director of the Scarborough Foundation. And nearly 3 years ago, our foundation and other voices in the community called on this board to make changes that can lead to improved student performance, better adult lives for our children, and more successful business environment for our employees. Since that time, you all have enacted a lot of great things and important changes designed to achieve those goals and more, and I thank you for that. Tonight, though, you have on your agenda 3 items that I believe have the potential to improve public education in this community for decades and generations to come. The 3 items are relating to the proposed partnership agreement with IDEA Public Schools are to me a demonstration of this district's commitment to innovation, quality, and improved student learning. I commend you for considering these measures, and I encourage you to improve each of them as they come before you. I know there's a lot of work yet to be done to make this a reality for our community, but I want you to know that we're just going to stay connected and try to make it happen. So thank you all for bringing it to this point, and thanks for letting me be here.
Thank you, Mr. Billingsley, and thank you and the Foundation's support for public schools in Midland. We very much appreciate it. Give that to Mr. Powell, please. All right, turning now to our consent agenda. Item 4A, board meeting minutes, page 21 of the board meeting packet for this evening. 4B, financials on page 28. 4C, monthly expenditures on page 35. 4D, monthly investment report, page 54. 4E, EIC policy recommendation, calculating rank, page 60. 4F, personnel appointments, page 67. 4G, board gifts, page 71. And 4H, board meeting schedule for 2019-2020 on page 72. Board members, do any of those items need to be pulled for any reason from the consent agenda? Hearing none, they'll all be deemed approved by consent. Now turning to our district reports. Agenda item 5A, district report on board goals, goal progress measures 3.1 and 3.2. Mr. Horner, welcome.
Thank you, President Davis, board members, Superintendent Riddick. This evening I presented to you goal progress measures 3.1 and 3.2. These are progress measures towards our third goal, graduation rate. Goal progress measure 3.1 very specifically looks at number of students leaving ninth grade with Algebra 1 credit. We know from all of the data and the research that Algebra 1 is a gatekeeper for graduation, and so this is important to us to measure. So a progress measure we have in place is actually seeing where we are at the semester. So at the end of the first semester, our goal, our target was to be our actual data was at 84%. So as you'll see with this and the other data, this is a true progress measure, and the campuses are really able to go back now and look at credit recovery models and different systems where they're being creative on working towards the end of year goal. So they have a real actionable methods to be able to act on this. So we're not where we would like to be. We're above where we have been in the past when we started this progress measure. And it is last year at the same time we were not at the yearly goal, but the progress measure we were able to take actions to meet it. So at so 3.1 we're at 84%. 3.2.
Let me ask you about, so I'll ask it affirmatively. There's every reason to believe we can meet or exceed the 88%?
So there's every reason we can, to believe we can get to that point. It's going to be a challenge. We have one campus that has a bigger challenge than the other, and we're looking at that data and working with that campus very specifically. It is feasible. Yes, sir, it is. And I'll just mention, this is students leaving that semester with a half a credit. So, you know, it's that's what this data shows us. So we have the opportunity to leave for a full credit.
Okay.
Did I answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Goal progress measure 3.2, in the same way that we're looking at Algebra 1 as a gatekeeper, the number of students leaving ninth grade with 6 or more credits is what we call an on-track measure. We keep this on-track measures for for all of our grades, but especially 9, 10, 11, and 12. So 3.2 specifically looks at how many students left the semester with 3 or more credits, assuming that we get another 3 or more credits at the end. So we are at 80%. Our goal is to be at the 85 by the end of the year. Again, it is feasible to get to that point. It's the same actions, and if you look at it, it's really the same data from the Algebra 1 credit with all of the other additions to it. So the middle of the year at December, we are at 80%, showing the students leaving with 3 or more credits. Again, this is data for those first-time ninth graders only, so it includes some newcomers at the 2 high schools.
All right, we'll revisit this at the conclusion of the year to see if we reach these goals. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
All right.
And I'll point out again, last year we were not at the target goal for the end of the year when we had this goal progress measure. However, again, it's a real progress measure. We're able to take actions, put in steps, and the campuses are working hard to add to those credits, both for this semester and the credit recovery for first semester. So it is likely we can reach that goal.
You kind of answered my question. So you don't have an apples to apples comparison. Mid-semester this year we're at 80%, which on that graph looks like a downturn, but it's not, because that was an end of year number.
Yes, sir.
So if you went back between end of year 17 and end of year 18 and put a dot in there, do you know what that number was this time last year?
So this time last year it was 79%. 80. It was, don't quote me, it was right at 79 or 80% this time last year. So,
and still met the goal.
And we still met the goal, yes, sir. So to answer your question, it is not necessarily on the graph. It's not necessarily an apples to apples, because that graph is measuring three credits, and the target of an 85 at the end of the year is measuring 6 credits.
So we're at out of 6 credits, we're saying that, I hate to do public math, but round it off 4. We're saying that 82% of people will have 4 credits.
So our target at our measurement, this goal, so the 80% record, 80% of our students left fall semester with 3 or more credits. So there are many kids that actually have more than that because of the 7-period day as well as the incoming junior high credits, not necessarily counted the way we do this gold progress measure. So the number is 3 a semester, the target is 6 at the end of the semester, and it's not an 82 that we're targeting. That was last year's, it is an 85.
So we, do we tie our hands a little bit by not counting the extra credits? Because it's
We debated about this quite extensively. I actually measured this. I didn't bring that data with me for this report because it's not necessarily the way the progress measure was written. But yes, when we wrote the progress measure, we could have included how many credits they leave in 9th grade with. And that would include, if a student leaves 8th grade with Algebra 1, Art 1, Spanish 1 and 2, they actually would have those credits. We chose not to do that because we decided, if you remember when we went through most of our governance, we decided that the progress measure of actual credits at 9th grade was where it's key, and so and the best on track measure because it's a false positive if we were to look at credits they come in with.
right. Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Horner? All right, thank you very much. All right, next, financial update.
Good evening, Mr. Davis, Board of Trustees, Mr. Ray. My name is Carla Martin. I'm the Executive Director of Financial Services, and I'll be presenting the monthly financial update to you today. We ended the month of February with $137 million in cash and short-term investments. Our year-to-date revenue exceeds our year-to-date expenditures by $142 million in the general operating fund. Interest rates range from 2.4 to 2.63% in February. Compared to the same month last year, in February 2018, those rates were from 1.34% to 1.6%. Interest earned for our general fund totaled $335,000, bringing our year-to-date total to a little over $1 million. Year-to-date, our local tax collections is $246 million, or 95% of our revised budget. This is on target for our collection rate based on our 3-year average, where we are at this point in the school year. Now, an update on our Chapter 41 payment. We made our second payment in March 11, 2019 for $8.9 million. So the balance due after that payment is $44.8 million. So this chart shows the remaining payment schedule for the school year. The projected recapture at semester was 63.4. We received our fourth 6 weeks data, and so we will have an updated recapture estimate for you on our next board meeting. Now, so the current legislative session is in process. March 8th was the last day to file bills for the 86th legislature. Some bills we are watching closely, and just like House Bill 3 and Senate Bill 3, highlights of the proposed legislation under discussion are as follows. So for House Bill 3, it does include updates to the funding formula, a tax rate compression, changes to the minimum salary schedule, and various other provisions such as full day pre-K mandatory for eligible 4-year-olds, I'm sorry. For Senate Bill 3, that is the bill that has the $5,000 minimum teacher pay increase for every full-time classroom teacher or librarian. We will continue to monitor the progress of these bills and inform the board as they unfold. For additional information, we are members of the following professional organizations that communicate with us ongoing changes in legislative session.
Are we a part of?
Are we a part of those organizations as a part of a co-op TEA or something, or is that we are individually MISD is individually contracting with those lobbyists?
So those are organizations that we, as well as others around the state, belong to. So for example, the Texas School Alliance, it's 40 school districts. You have to meet a certain threshold for a number of students in order to join that organization. Others don't have that. In essence, outside of Fast Growth School Coalition, you have to be considered in the context of fast growth in order to come in, and they solicit your invitation. The District Charter Alliance are districts, school, ISDs, and charter schools who have agreed to come together into a coalition that works through that. So about 20 of us inside that coalition. So everyone has a different parameter, but we as well as others around the state can belong to many of those organizations.
And that's specific for legislative due to the Senate.
That's one aspect. So they do governmental relations within each of those organizations. And so they either have multiple attorneys responding to governmental relations actions in Austin, as well as at the federal level. So they'll be able to provide insight for us for many districts that don't have that as an aspect, as well as they do curriculum and funding and other support mechanisms designed in their work as well. And advocacy around a number of topics, not just during legislative time.
Is it correct to say that? Is it correct to say that one or more of these organizations, as the legislation progresses, will be able to provide MISD specific pro forma information on how the proposed legislation at that point in time might positively or negatively impact our district?
Yes, sir. What they'll end up doing is, as the legislation gets further along and the item that we call or known as runs begin to take their actions and determine how a district will be impacted, then many of these will either come up with a formula that is contrary to what's being presented or has minute changes or is completely different. An example would be the Equity Center may come up with their own formula funding criteria in order to navigate how they see school funding could benefit others around this. So yes, Texas School Alliance will be able to do that. Moat Casey and Associates will be able to do that. Equity Center, Hillco Partners. The Charter Alliance will probably use one of the others to help navigate that question.
And we've actually received one, they called it a House Bill 3 impact analysis specifically for Midland ISD, and we can provide that information to the board.
Yeah, would you please do so? That'd be great, Ms. Martin. Thank you.
I have a question. Of these partnerships and organizations we belong to, are we paying any of these, or are we just part of these organizations?
No, sir. There's a cost that comes with being a part of the association, so that they can then offset what they do to take care of action. So there are staff members that meet their expectation that do governmental relations, either large or small. So there is a fee that goes to each of those organizations that we belong to.
Thank you.
Why isn't, excuse me, why isn't TASB on that list? Are we members of TASB?
TASB is one that we are also, the Texas Association of School Boards, as well as TASA, the Texas Association of School Administrators, is another one that we belong to. So they do some follow-up, but not at the level that these organizations are doing. So they do some governmental relations and information. These as well not only give you follow-up, but they do advocacy in a very strong way. Not that TASA and TASB don't, but TASA and TASB will use Moat Casey, the Texas School Alliance. They'll partner through that work. And those are two other organizations that we belong to. These are the ones that are providing us the most amount of information around what are day-to-day updates that are occurring.
Thank you.
Anything else, Ms. Martin?
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Appreciate the information. We'll remain optimistic about what may happen in the legislature. All right, District Report 5C, staffing update. Mr. Bailey, welcome.
Good evening, Board President Davis, Board members, Superintendent Riddick. I'll have a very brief staffing update. Of course, we included all of that information in the packet and updated staffing information. Of course, this is a very busy time in our department. We are in the middle of internal transfers, budgeting, staffing, recruiting, hiring, and contracts that will be coming in April. I want to bring up a couple of things to your attention just very briefly. and take just a moment to bring some attention to an initiative that we started out this year in hopes that we might be able to launch, and we are actually ahead of schedule, and that's thanks to Delafry and the Early Childhood Department that has enhanced our employee offerings. And so, you know, as far as childcare is a challenge here in Midland, and quality childcare, of course, and we are able to offer employee childcare to our employees. And so, not only are we offering that at Coleman, but also expanding to Henderson this year, and want to bring some attention to Coleman that has achieved the four-star Texas Rising Star award, or rating basically, which is the highest that can be achieved. And so I want to congratulate Claudia Warris, who is the director of that Child Care Center at Coleman, as well as David Moore and Delafry for their work in maintaining that four-star rating. And so I just want to take a moment to appreciate them and bring some attention to that. Also want to, in your board packet, under the consent agenda, there was an addendum, and that individual is here tonight. The recommendation and the newly approved principal for San Jacinto Junior High School is Jessica Varner, and I believe Ms. Varner is here. If you'd stand.
Ms. Varner, welcome.
Jessica Varner is the next principal of San Jacinto Junior High School. She was chosen based on her strengths, such as her data-driven decision-making with relationship building and instructional coaching skills. We saw her experience working through IR turnaround schools in the 5th Ward of Houston ISD as a successful opportunity to bring those skills to Midland ISD. She has a background in English language arts and is most recently working at Abilene High School in Abilene, Texas. So we give a big West Texas welcome and Midland welcome to Ms. Varner.
Ms. Varner, thank you. Welcome to Midland. I look forward to working with you next year. Thank you very much for doing this. Mr. Bailey, anything else?
That's it.
All right, any questions for Mr. Bailey? All right, thank you very much. All right, next, District Report 5D, Facilities Update. Mr. Riggin, welcome.
Good afternoon, Board President Davis, board members, and Mr. Riddick, Superintendent Riddick. We're here tonight to update the board with the actions of the Board Facility Committee. The committee continues to work. We meet weekly to discuss a future plan to bring to the full board. What we bring to you tonight is the 2019 demographic study produced by Davis Demographics. This study is in its entirety has been added to the board report or board agenda for y'all's use and information. And we would like to give you a few highlights of that study and go through the methodology a little bit about how Davis Demographics came to their conclusions and population projections. First of all, they use multiple data sources, including geographic and non-geographic. These included area growth rates, student mobility, yields from housing, and the housing that's known developments that are occurring within Milam, as we know, as of January this year. All information that was provided in the study is based on information known as of January of 2019. The study, it's important to know that their study is recommended for MISD to assist the district in the decision-making processes for long-range facility planning, and that this process would have their projections have a possible plus or minus 1% variance. In their executive study or their executive survey, many of the items that they studied were somewhat obvious to us. We've seen a growth within our district in the past 4 years. They expect us to continue to see growth and they expect us to see growth for the next 10 years. Some of the items in the executive study that I think are points of interest is that the next 6 years, you're going to see over 3,100 new housing units within Midland. You're going to see by fiscal year, school year 2023, we will surpass 30,000 students. And it is expected by school year 2028, we will surpass 33,400 students. It's expected the overall growth of our student population will increase in the next 10 years by 30%, which could be interpolated as a 3% annual growth rate. Some of the takeaways that they're showing is that pre-K through 6, they're expecting growth in a 19% range in the next 10 years, and a 1.5 or 1.9% annual growth. You'll see that they're expecting our secondaries to increase from 44% to 56% to 44% with the various secondary grade levels. They're expecting that growth to occur anywhere from 4.4% to 5.6% in the next 10 years. When you look at the demographic study comparison, I put together this chart so that you have a real understanding of the past historic membership, which is shown in green. That has been shown on other slides that I've shared with you. You can see where the 2012 Beyond Richter demographic study is purple, where we showed us continue to exceed their predictions. And then you will see the blue numbers there are the 2018 MISD forecast numbers that were brought to you a little over a year ago. It was the MISD forecast. And then you'll see the 2019 Davis demographic study that extends to 28-29, showing at the end of 28-29, Davis demographics expects a membership of approximately 33,400 students. Some of the notes or takeaways that I would share with the board that the demographic study is shared is based on known geographic and non-geographic data, birth rates, housing, mobility, etc. It is based on current known data. And that is typical with any demographic study that we perform. Some of the items that a demographic study and Davis would not include in their future study or their study would be future factors that would include growth to our industry, our area industry, growth to that would affect our city and ultimately our student population. They also, because we are very short of available space, they do not include, if we had space, we would offer additional programs in certain educational programs, early education, maybe some additional academies that would, we would offer that would increase our enrollment. I would expect would increase our enrollment. And with that, again, that's not known data to them at this time, and they would not have that as a factor or a variable in their study. It was noted that their numbers, they feel very confident in their numbers for the next 5 years. They believe that the numbers that they submitted are good for 10 years. They would also make the note that any study that would exceed 10 years would be based purely on speculation because of the lack of known data for 10 years. Going to the last slide. Again, this shows you the comparison between the MISD forecast and the Davis demographic study. There is a In the end of 10 years, there's a difference of approximately 2,500 students between the MISD forecast and the Davis demographic study. You can see that as we look at the Davis line, that parallels our forecast fairly well until about 4 to 5, 6 years out. And if you take that little red triangle area there, I think that may be where some of our differences may occur. Again, their study is based on known build-outs, known housing developments. And if you extend this past 5 to 6 years, then we start getting to the unknown there. And I believe that we will see a similar increase in forecast. And so when we look at this study, I think the area that we're looking at mostly is what would make up the difference in that red triangular area. And we will continue to look at data that and information that would continue to support Davis or the MISD forecast.
Superintendent Riddick.
This study has a lot of information to it. It is something that the board would like to get into more depth. I would recommend that the board consider scheduling a future board workshop to really get into the weeds on this if the board feels the necessity. That concludes my report.
Superintendent Riddick, do you feel that I know you've been doing the transformation zone, and I mean, you're looking at a lot of things, but it's one of the things that you think that we're going to pull people from the private schools into MISD, and that number could go up for some of the specialized schools that are going to come online?
So I know with some of our most recent innovation schools, we've seen in the application process, kids who have been in private school wanting to look at that as an opportunity. Not all necessarily designed to pull everybody away from private industry. I think there needs to be our private schools, a healthy competition that's built between it. What I want to be able to do is be able to offer our community a great array of school choice options that they have at the discussion table, and that Midland is a strong contender when thinking about what campus they want to provide their son or daughter to go to. So we have seen that, not in large numbers, where maybe in other areas I might challenge to go after that particular market in a heavy way. We're creating some great options for our community, and we're seeing that we're getting individuals who are in private school wanting to come over. And I think it's a great thing. And again, there are members of our community who feel like that's an area that they would like to, move themselves into. So there's, that cross-pollination that's happening.
So my other comment about the study would be that it'd be for the public, but our public, but there's a lot of information in there, and it's a lot of good information, and I just ask the public to dive into it, and because this is your city, this is your town, this is your district, and this information will shape Midland ISD and the city as we know it. And it's a daunting thing to think that what needs to happen in this town, and we're trying to do the best thing we can for Midland ISD and Midland, our community. But I just ask the public to dive into that information and see what's going on and with Midland and Midland County, and because it is a lot of information, but it's good information that can be used to build this town as we're moving towards the future with it. So thank you for all that hard work of.
The study said that 7 of the elementary schools are at capacity.
I'm sorry.
It said that the Davis study said that 7 of the elementary schools are currently at capacity, or that's...
At capacity or above capacity.
Right. I guess part of my question is I'm surprised the number was that small. I mean, I feel like that there's so many already busting. If anything, I feel like this forecast is too conservative.
When you look at 7 or more of our buildings are at elementary are at capacity or above. Also, you'll notice in that report that our secondaries, all except for ninth grade centers, are at or above capacity. And that's where some of these takeaways on the executive summary, we are going to see a continued growth for the next 10 years at our secondary campuses. So if we're at capacity now, we're going to be well above capacity in 10 years.
Yeah, I would suggest when the bond committee is near completion of what it will recommend to the entire board, that at that point in time we have a workshop to study these numbers and any other available information, particularly economic forecast information we have available to us at that time.
You can take that recommendation.
Any other questions or comments? All right, thank you, Mr. Regan, appreciate it. All right, now turning to our action items, discussion action items. 6A, resolution in support of application for National Incident-Based Reporting System grant. You're not Chief Barkley, but welcome.
Sorry, Chief Barkley couldn't make that, so I'm going to be subbing for him.
All right, welcome.
Good evening, board members. Here today to talk to you about a grant that we applied for. The grant, if approved, will save the district $7,000. It's for the NIDERS reporting system. Each law enforcement agency within the U.S. is required to report both as stated to the FBI for statistical purposes. By January of 2021, this report is required by the FBI to be submitted in a more comprehensive National Incident-Based Reporting System, or NIDERS. DPS wants all Texas agencies to be NIDERS compliant by September 2019. Fulfilling the goal requires approximately $7,000 of technology upgrade, which states has been assisted with grants. I recommend that the Board of Trustees approve this resolution so that we can be compliant with the DPS mandate.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Trischetti, second by Mr. Bishop. Any questions or any discussion? All those in favor, please raise your right hand. It's unanimous. Thank you. Thank you, officer. Appreciate it. All right, 6B, K through 8, English Language Arts and Spanish Language Arts, approval of instructional materials. Information on page 182 of the meeting packet. Ms. Rivera, welcome.
Good evening, President Davis, board members, Mr. Riddick, Mr. Powell. Thank you for the time this evening. I'm with two of my team members here, Director of Reading, Elementary, Sylvia Bernal, and Director of Secondary Language Arts, Candy Callis, who've led the work on the instructional materials review and recommendation for the board. So thank you for that. Just a few minutes of your time tonight. This is Proclamation 2019. It's a little bit confusing in the year. That means we actually review materials in school year 18-19 to implement in 19-20. Just a few of the pieces or the informational pieces I think are important for the board. This committee was formed and approved by the board in October. We've had several informational work sessions for that working committee, including sessions in October, November, December. Then in January, we held an instructional materials fair where people not on the committee, administrators, anyone else with general interest in the instructional resources that we were reviewing were able to come to Eagle that night and hear vendor presentations and actually see all the materials, etc. Then our electronic voting began in February, and then we're bringing a recommendation to the board tonight in the March board meeting. We do follow EFAA administrative regs that allow us to adopt and recommend instructional materials. In EFAA, it does say that we should have 2/3 of the voting committee to make a recommendation. If
If we're not able to get that 2/3 after the third vote, then we bring a recommendation to the board for the resource that had the majority of the votes. The K-5 recommendation did actually receive the 2/3, so we didn't have to go to a third vote. In the 6A recommendation, though, we did have to go through the third vote, so the recommendation being brought to the board tonight was the majority for grade 6A.
The instructional materials committee began with TEACS training, and then we moved on to rubric orientation. The first 2 sessions were dedicated to learning the standards, so we got committee members for that. Dr. Christopher Cole helped us with that. We moved on in December to train committee members on the rubric, how to use it, and we actually had practice evaluating the rubric with instructional materials that were provided. As Mrs. Rivera stated, in January we had our instructional materials publication. This provided opportunities for committee members, teachers, administrators to come and learn more about the materials that were available. In your packet, you can view the actual rubric that was used and the specific indicators that were under each section. The rubric used to evaluate the instructional materials had 2 sections. The first was non-negotiable for instructional rigor, and the second section is on the content organization and the support. The areas evaluated under each section are research-based qualities that our committee members felt were important with our adoption.
As Mr. Rivera and Ms. Bernal stated, the committee members, which were board approved in October, we feel made very sound instructional recommendations, which we're presenting to the board this evening. So the K-5 committee is actually, they did reach the 2/3 majority to recommend Countess and Pinnell Classroom for our ELAR standards and Taller for benchmark workshop for our SLAR classrooms. And our secondary committee, which is just 6-8 for implementation in this next school year, is actually recommending the approval of Springboard for its curriculum. As we collected and went through the electronic voting process, we really wanted the committee members to explain to us and give us some justification on why they were making the choices that they did. And so in your packet on this slide and the next slide, there's a few noteworthy comments that we've included where teachers, committee members really are expressing the reasons for their recommendations for these specific instructional materials. And pending board approval, the T&L department will schedule instructional materials orientation, which will begin this summer. And we will also be making sure we have professional development sessions scheduled for our teachers for our new ELAR and SLT that will be implemented K-8 in school year 2019-20.
Happy to answer any questions that you might have. I know you have had time to review the materials as well as listen tonight, but at this point we're ready to turn it back to Mr. Davis for a formal action if y'all are ready.
I've got a quick question. So I think is that one of our new campuses that we'll be voting on tonight, is this material going to be part of their campus, or is that something that we're it's not part of their, it's part of the academics of...
I think that's a great question. I'll take it, Mr. Riddick, unless you...
Please, and I'll add if you missed something.
What we would like to do is once things get a little more finalized with some of our new schools and innovation, transformation, et cetera, we'd like to sit down with principals and see if these are the instructional materials they would like to adopt for ELAR and SLAR. If they are, they'll go in with our order, just like all the other campuses will. And if they make a more autonomous decision based on the needs of their students, then instructional materials fund will support the resources that they decide to use.
Okay, and that's what I was looking for, to see we were offering that opportunity already.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I'll make the motion, we approve the instructional materials as recommended by the committees.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Trischetti, second by Mr. Kennedy. Any other questions or discussion? All those in favor, please raise your right hand. It's unanimous. Thank you. All right, thank you. And thank you, the committee, for all the work. Really appreciate it. All right, item 6C, authorization of IDEA Public Schools. Authorization of IDEA Public Schools to operate and manage Travis Elementary as an in-district charter. Information begins on page 194 of our meeting packet. Ms. Kale, welcome. Excited to see you here this evening.
Thank you. Board President Davis, Trustees, Mr. Riddick, thank you for your leadership on this entire front and your time over the weekend reading thousands of pages. This is an exciting opportunity for our students, our families, our staff members, and our community. Please note that some of your board agenda, the cover sheets say February, but it should say March. I tried to correct as many as I could. For IDEA, this has been a 2-year ongoing discussions, maybe a little bit longer in the community, but they have gone through the application process that was conditionally approved in December, and they are now presenting, we are presenting this opportunity for a partnership. Many people in our community have been working on this, and we appreciate all of them. I would like to introduce Bethany Solis, the Executive Director of the Permian Basin IDEA Schools.
Ms. Solis, welcome. Thank you for being here.
So this evening, we are recommending that the board accept IDEA Public Schools in-district charter application to manage and operate Travis Elementary beginning in the 2021 school year, and authorize the superintendent and board president to make any clarifying revisions or amendments to that document and the draft lease after consultation with the district general counsel to execute executive the final document.
I move.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Marquez, second by Mr. Kennedy. Any questions?
I have a question.
Question.
Get this button to work. I guess the question I have, in the, in the new in-district charter, I know some of our other other campuses we've talked about for our younger students as far as recess. Where does recess fit in with our in-district charters?
So one of the things that we do as a district is we've implemented a 30-minute recess, and if that's the strategy that our new campuses want to stay with, most certainly they would continue to bring in recess. But when we get to the autonomy aspect, although we know that recess is a good element for our kids, and it's a great way to help bring mind and body and spirit all together, they'll work with it, but we won't be able to direct that. That will be something that the campuses themselves would have to go forward and say, do we want to spend the time doing the recess, or do we want to spend the time moving in a different direction? So that's something that we have to start to get comfortable with around many of those aspects, because in essence what we're doing is we're cutting the umbilical cord between us and the campus. Although they're in the family, there are ties that we require and adhere to, either written or unwritten, within the district. And many of those are good practices. We would hope that many continue those practices, but in the area of autonomy, the campuses can make a decision in regards to how they want to operate within their curriculum and within their day. If I answered your question.
If IDEA has a representative, can she speak to just the historical aspect of what other IDEA schools do?
Sure.
I mean, not hold her feet to the fire, but just to get a sense of.
Aren't you glad you came?
Thank you all so
Welcome.
much. Specifically around the question of recess.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, K-5, we have 30 minutes of recess as part of our program. 6 through 8, we have a couple of different models. so I can't speak as clearly to that one, but at least K through 5, 30 minutes of recess every day, all kiddos.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Kell, my question is, I know that Travis is one of, we just had the review of the IR campuses, and the idea isn't going into effect until the 2021. What does that do for the campus next year? I mean, we all hope, we are positive, although hope is not an action plan. We're positive, we want to think that they come off IR. If they don't come off IR and that's their 6th year, with this pending in 2021, how does that affect that campus?
Well, number one, we anticipate, as you heard, that Travis is coming off. But if that does not happen, we have worked with Speaker Craddock's office to propose some language in House Bill 4205 that addresses that grade band requirement and provides the TEA commissioner some latitude in exempting that.
I think I noticed on there, especially for IDEA, that they had financial reporting obligations to the district. And so, and there was a time period, how soon they were to report to us. Does that take them out of our annual audit, or will they still be part of our audited financial statements whenever we have to report that to the state?
That's a good question.
So that's a good question.
I'd say yes and yes.
I can't answer definitively right now in regards to the audit. I know we've run through that question, and I can't recall from what our attorneys had shared with us, but the kids would still belong to Midland ISD, so there's still some accountability that we have to share in regards to what that means in accounting for the finances that come through, because the funding elements would come through Midland. As an organization, they will conduct their own individual audit. So I've got to run through what that piece looks like in regards to when we get to the audit time frame. How does that come on board, and what actions that happen with them, either on their own internal audit or an audit that's done with MISD. If there are actions that account, how do we handle what that looks like? I can't right now, Trustee Murray, definitively tell you what that looks like.
And the only reason I asked is because if the deadline was so many days after the fiscal year end, but then if we have another reporting guideline with our audit, I just wondered if that was going to conflict. That's the only reason I asked. So
that's a note we'll make and reach out and see how that looks like with the agency. 'Cause that's another agency aspect of how we've been flying with the agency, flying and building the plane at the same time in regards to their aspirational piece on 1882 and where we are as a system of great schools. That's when we'll ask the agency how that process could work together. It's not new. We have districts that have launched down that pathway, so we just got to figure out what that looks like for us.
I've got a question just to clarify. So, on physical land for the facility, is there the area is quite big over there, so there's no like boundary, you can just say this is where our, is there an agreement for how much physical land they're going to require, or is that, because I know it's stated in there, but it didn't say like.
So right now, working next, an item that's further down is the lease agreement around the building. One of the things that that is also attractive about Travis is the land that's out back, so that it can facilitate what could look like the network that IDEA Public Schools likes to establish in elementary K-5, and then a secondary, or ours would be pre-K 6 and then secondary, but theirs could go now pre-K 5 and then a secondary 6-12 with campuses built outside of the building. And we started to launch on what 7th grade could look like and then what 8th grade could look like in our future. But that's still out into our negotiation piece that we will do on the lease agreement, beginning with building and then starting to work through the land. And that could be a piece that we could think about in regards to the land that's out behind Travis that we look at in regards to building space for IDEA Public Schools for their second portion of their campus, which would be the secondary portion.
So, because if you start in spring of 2020, that's in the fall of 2020. That means in fall of 2021, you have somebody going to 7th grade.
Correct, and we're starting that conversation on what that could look like. Now it's about what does it look like to build a facility on that particular land. And it's promising because they need ball fields and everything else in regards to what that could look like. And that could present itself well around that.
Are we going to take an individual vote on each one of these?
Yes, sir.
Yes, we will.
Well, I better interject my concern here relative to management. In this statement right here, we have to operate and manage Travis Elementary. Will there be a board at this campus like at Carver?
So we'll ultimately be directly accountable to the governing board of IDA Public Schools that oversees all the Texas schools. But we will also have a local advisory board that is specific to our community here in the Permian Basin. Does that answer your question?
Members of the advisory.
I'm sorry?
Who appoints the members to the advisory board? IDA?
We do, yes. And I know that there's some language in 1882 that requires some separation, like there can't be specific school district employees on the board, school board members, and the superintendent.
That's an important point, but my concern has to do with how will you approach guaranteeing that there will be diversity on these boards. In the article in Sunday's paper that described Carver and its operational structure, it is to the exclusion of a diverse board. Matter of fact, it would suggest to me that we're adding insult to injury at that particular campus given its location. How will you guarantee, and I'm asking this question to address each one of those campuses, how will you guarantee that there will be diversity in terms of board members on each one of those campuses?
I can speak to specifically to IDEA. I really appreciate this question and this push. I'm, as an organization, as well as I personally, I'm deeply committed to diversity and equity. And so you have my word that will be a high priority, not only for board selection, but for leader selection, teacher selection. It's important that our staff also reflects the diversity of our community and our student population.
Do you have a process in place currently that will address the recruiting of diverse people to participate in the board?
We have a policy and a commitment and values to that. I would have to get back to you around more specifics of that speak to the diversity concern. But it's an excellent question.
Any other questions or comments? My comment is that I'm excited about our opportunity to approve this contract when the board, which was mostly this board, adopted in 2017, along with working with the teaching and learning staff of MISD, we among the plan of actions that we approved was a plan to immediately explore the opportunity to partner with a charter operator to operate as an in-district charter. We wanted to ensure that the first partner we did had an excellent proven track record of success, and there is no charter operator that I'm aware of, especially one that operates in Texas, much less the nation, that has a better track record than IDEA. And so I'm excited about the opportunity to vote in favor of this motion and welcome them to Midland. I hope the vote goes in favor of it, because I think this is a wonderful opportunity for MISD in this community. And I appreciate all the non-MISD folks that have stepped up to try and make this happen and work with IDEA to encourage them and to provide the support that they are looking for from this community. So If there are no further comments, we'll call for a vote or questions.
I want to make sure. Mr. President, I want us to make sure that we as a board are guaranteeing that we will have diversity on these respective campuses as it relates to the governing boards.
Well, as IDEA has told us, we have only to look at their existing board as a witness that they believe in diversity. It's not just something that's a policy or a values, it's something that they actually implement in their governing their organization. So on this particular action item, you can be assured I take her at a word. I'm sure the past track record of the organization speaks to that.
And I want to make a comment that you know, looking at everything, student outcomes is impressive. And we have started with student outcomes 2 years ago. And so I think that should be the goal of this community and for our entire community, student outcomes. And they need to improve. And you know, that's what sticks in my mind for this approval, and it's got to be about student outcomes.
I agree with you 100%, Mr. Marcus, but in doing that, it's imperative that we have a cross-section of individuals in our community that guarantees that success which you underscore. And I support every one of these proposals as it relates to academics and campus performance. But that since the article in Sunday's paper suggests that particular campus's board selection is a done deal, I'm concerned that we have the instrument in place to make sure, again, that there is diversity on these boards.
And on my behalf, I can say that that would be something that, as a board member here, you know, that's an expectation of myself. You know, that what you've said should be the case. So we should strive for that. And you know, I would say to our community as we're going through this process that, you know, as much work has been done, you know, we might have a fumble or two in between there per se, but we're moving quite rapidly to move Midland forward, Midland ISD forward with student outcomes. So.
Well, I will interject right now. I was going to hold it till we got to our local campuses, local partners, but this has been a fast process, and I have talked specifically with some of the local board members in this process, and they said they are not done recruiting community members, and they're already talking to others so that the diversity is quickly addressed.
That's great, but are they working to put in place a mechanism whereby they recruit that diverse board?
I think that's something that we could all work together to help with.
Okay. I'm going to hold you to that.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? All those in favor of authorization of IDEA Public Schools to operate and manage Travis Elementary as an in-district charter, please raise your right hand. It's unanimous. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Kale. Appreciate it. Very exciting. Thank you, IDEA. All right, 6D. Performance contract for IDEA Public Schools to operate and manage Travis Elementary. That information begins on page 333 of our meeting packet for this evening.
And just so everyone knows, we're this next one is for the performance contract, which you have in your packet. And at this point, we would like to recommend that the board approve the performance contract for Idea Public Schools to manage and operate Travis Elementary beginning in the 2020 to 2021 school year, and authorize the superintendent and board president to make any clarifying revisions or amendments to the document after consultation with the district's general counsel and to execute the final document.
So moved. Go ahead. No, second.
Motion by Mr. Kennedy, second by Mr. Murray. Any questions or comments regarding this item? All right, all those in favor, please raise your right hand. It's approved. Thank you. Very exciting. Thank you very much. All right, 6E, authorization. I'm sorry. Let me announce it first, okay? 6E, authorization of, I know it's exciting, I'm excited too. 6E, authorization of Young Women's Preparatory Network to operate and manage Young Women's Leadership Academy as an in-district charter. This information appears on page 478 of our meeting packet.
Thank you. Young Women's Preparatory Network has been in discussions with our community for 2 years based upon a principal submission to the Call for Quality Schools. Young Women's Preparatory is extremely excited about this opportunity. This evening in attendance, we have their Chief Academic and Accountability Officer, Berta Fulkerson.
Welcome. Welcome.
We also have campus leader, Dr. Jennifer Sieber, and 2 board members, Dave Joyner and Kate Williamson, inaugural board members that will be expanded upon.
Welcome.
So at this time, we would like to recommend that the board authorize Young Women's Preparatory Network as an in-district charter to manage and operate Young Women's Leadership Academy, and authorize the superintendent and board president to make any clarifying revisions or amendments to the document after consultation with the district general counsel to execute the final document.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Marquez, second by Mr. Kennedy. Any questions or discussion?
I would like to make a comment that my time serving as a board member, I feel that this will be one of the most important things that we brought to Midland, and I'm so excited about it. I'm so proud of us for being a leader in this area with this school. I think that what it'll bring to Midland in the future is just going to be so phenomenal. So I think it's just one of the best things that it's going to happen in West Texas. And I feel that, I don't know how many years I'll get to serve on this board, but this is going to be one of my proudest accomplishments as far as being involved with this project.
Mr. Riddick, I don't know how long you plan to be here.
As long as you want me, sir. Good answer.
But to dovetail on what Mr. Marcus just said, we've got to become the innovative district in terms of creating a boys' academy one of these days.
Yes, sir. We've heard that from the inception of our Young Women's Leadership Academy through the network we've shared. What's the greater piece that the network brings is that right now there is not an established boys network, not that one can't be created, not that there's not the support around establishing the academy and the funding elements that come along with it, not that someone cannot go and create that. Someone needs to come to the call, present something of high value, of high quality, to say this is what we'd like to do, and if it comes in the shape of a homogeneous environment for boys, we look at it like we look at every other piece in regards to talent coming to the table and what do they bring forward, and can they actually matriculate this to inception and to open doors. But it is something that we do have on our radar, and someone will need to bring that forward in regards to building something out and what does it look like. What I don't want to have happen though is in Denver Public Schools. We're looking at their model in regards to how this work starts to shape itself out. They continue to do calls for quality schools, but things may be getting put on the shelf for when they're ready to implement, it goes into inception. I don't want to create too long of a wait list and shelve things as they're coming forward. I'd like to get those in and started. So I don't want to do calls just to have an idea brought forward and then we can't enact on it. So with that being said, as ideas come forward, and there are still many more out there from staff members, from community members, nationally, we'll look at who's got a program, and if there's a program out there that runs well and it runs for boys, we'll most certainly look at it.
Well, that's great. But if we did it ourselves and became the originator, that would be even greater. By the way, don't forget Mr. Billingsley is out there.
I would echo the enthusiasm for this. Another program with a demonstrated track record of success in Texas. We're excited that they sought us out and wanted to have their program be here in Midland. We're excited that they're willing to give us $1 million to support teacher professional development, counseling for the students to pursue a collegiate career, and it is our expectation that they have the same track record of success here going forward as they have in the past, and we're very excited that they're willing to come here in Midland. We're also very grateful for the contribution, or offered contribution by XTO to support this school and its success going forward. We're ready for a vote? All those in favor, raise your right hand. It's unanimous. Thank you. Thank you very much. All right, step 2 of this two-step process, 6F, the performance contract for Young Women's Preparatory Network to operate and manage the Young Women's Leadership Academy. That information begins on page 599 of our meeting packet for this evening.
So at this point, we would like to recommend that the board approve the performance contract for Young Women's Preparatory Network to manage and operate Young Women's Leadership Academy, and authorize the superintendent and board president to make any clarifying revisions or amendments to the document after consultation with the district general counsel and to execute the final document.
I move.
Motion by Mr. Marquez. Second by Mr. Fuller. Any questions or comments? All those in favor, please raise your right hand. It's unanimous. Thank you. I'm very excited. Thank you very much. All right, 6G, authorization of Educate Midland to operate and manage Ben Milam International Academy as an in-district charter. The information begins on page 639 of our meeting packet.
Yes, we want to first off thank Educate Midland for the work that they've put in toward helping us with Ben Milam, Goddard, and Bunch in this process. I'd like to introduce the Ben Milam. Y'all are the Educate Midland staff. Curtis Evans, Stephen Myers, Brian Stubbs. I want to thank them very much. As far as the Ben Milam work, the people that have primarily been doing the bulk of the work have been Milam Principal Eliana Bermia, Letty Amaya, our Executive Director of English Learners, and Diane Lopez, Elementary Executive Director.
Thank you all very much.
They put a lot of time into this work, and Ms. Bermia also has a consultant working with her through the School Empowerment Network to help design what this school will look like, and it's a 1.5-year process through that to help her not only with leadership, but what the content of the school and how it works and what it looks like as it grows. So it's very exciting work that she has been going through in this process. We have partnered with Educate Midland in this process, and they are helping us basically get these schools prepared and to start creating some 501c3s from that process that can support the mission of these campuses. So at this time, we would like to recommend that the board authorize Educate Midland as an in-district charter operator to manage and operate Milam International Academy as an in-district charter, and authorize the superintendent and board president to make any clarifying revisions or amendments to the document after consultation with the district general counsel to execute the final document.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Mr. Murray, second by Mr. Kennedy. I'd like to echo the thanks for Educate Midland to step up and serve in this role. It's a much-needed role. We very much appreciate their willingness to expand. This is not exactly a collective impact model path, but at its core, Educate Midland is about supporting the district and making public schools better, and we appreciate your willingness to do this for this district and for this campus, or all three campuses. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, we ready for a vote?
I have a question.
Go ahead.
I guess my question stands as the question I asked IDEA as far as the recess for our children. Is that pretty much y'all stand on that as far as partnering with our elementaries as far as on our recess, or is that just a different outlook?
Would you like the school leaders to address that?
Please.
Mr. Mayor?
So currently we have been working on curriculum, performance goals, objectives, and so recess. We definitely understand the value of it, but at this time we have not set in stone a time frame for recess, although with the implementation of dual language, we understand that it's very critical for our students to be able to practice their language skills, and I know that one of the time frames that they do that is during recess, and so we understand the value, but at this time have not set in stone what the time frame will be for recess.
Thank you.
Well, on that, we highly recommend that you visit with campuses that have at least 30 minutes and listen to their testimonials, and hopefully you will exercise your self-autonomy to do at least 30 minutes on this campus. All right, are we ready for the vote? All those in favor, please raise your right hand. It's unanimous. Thank you very much. And thank you, Educate Midland, once again. Appreciate it. This is another exciting opportunity for our district. All right, the two-step process on this is item 6H, performance contract for Educate Midland to operate and manage Milam International Academy. And we have that on our walk-in on our desk today. It is similar to the other one that we did have a copy of, right? Okay. All right. So 6H. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Kennedy, second by Mr. Bishop. Any questions or comments about this? All right, we're ready for a vote. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. It's unanimous. Thank you. Thank you very much. All right, next action item, 6I, authorization of Educate Midland to operate and manage Goddard Junior High as a REACH network school as an in-district charter network. The information on this begins on page 764 of our meeting packet.
Again, we want to thank Educate Midland, and the school leader for the REACH network will be Shelley Haney, current principal at Goddard Elementary. Some of her team members that are here are Charles Rieker, Lori Halton, and David Duarte.
Thank you for being here. Welcome.
But we are excited about this work and the opportunity to create a pre-K through 8 continuum for Goddard and Bunch to best serve the model that has been successful at Goddard. So at this time, we would like to recommend that the board authorize Educate Midland as an in-district charter to manage and operate Goddard Junior High as part of the REACH network, and authorize the superintendent and board president to make any clarifying revisions or amendments to the document after consultation with the district's general counsel to execute the final document.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Truschetti, second by Mr. Kennedy. I think this item goes to Mr. Fuller's point earlier this evening that part of our goal to be innovative is not just to rely upon external third parties, although we're very appreciative of them, but also we want to recognize the ability of our own folks to be innovative and to create models that are successful and replicate those in other campuses, and use this as an opportunity to have a feeder elementary school district benefit from that as they go into their junior high academic environment. So excited about this self-grown, organic, innovative school idea. You ready for the vote?
I just wanted to add to, one thing on that. The night we had the informational meeting at SJ, I had the opportunity to sit in the class with Ms. Haney as she went over the information regarding this school, and just her enthusiasm and the work that she's already put in at Goddard. I'm excited about this as well. So thank you for doing the work and getting this started for us in MISD.
All right, ready for the vote? All those in favor, please raise your right hand. It's unanimous. Thank you very much. It's approved. And the next two-step on this one, item 6J, performance contract for Educate Midland to operate and manage Goddard Junior High as a REACH network school. It's also another document we've been provided this evening, similar to the other ones that we saw before the meeting began.
Yes, this mimics the Milam contract. So at this time, we would recommend that the board approve the performance contract for Educate Midland to manage and operate Goddard Junior High as part of the REACH network, and authorize the superintendent board president to make any clarifying revisions or amendments to the document after consultation with the district's general counsel and to execute the final document.
Motion by Mr. Murray, second by Mr. Truschetti. Ready for a vote? All those in favor, please raise your right hand. It's unanimous. Approved. Thank you very much. All right, next. Item 6K, authorization of Educate Midland to operate and manage Bunch Elementary as a REACH network school as an in-district charter network. Information on this item begins on page 886 of our meeting packet for this evening.
Again, I'd like to iterate that we have to do these separately for TDA purposes. So at this time, we would like to recommend that the board authorize Educate Midland as an in-district charter to manage and operate Bunch Elementary as part of the REACH network, and authorize the superintendent and board president to make any clarifying revisions or amendments to this document after consultation with the district's general counsel to execute the final document.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Mr. Murray, second by Mr. Truschetti. Ready for a vote? All those in favor, please raise your right hand. It's unanimous. Thank you. All right, second step on this one. 6L, performance contract for Educate Midland to operate and manage Bunch Elementary as a REACH network school.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Kennedy, second by Mr. Murray. Ready for a vote? All those in favor, please raise your right hand. It's unanimous. Thank you. And thank you again, Educate Midland. Really appreciate it very much. All right, 6M, authorization of Carver Center, 501c3, to operate and manage Carver Center as an in-district charter. Information on this item begins on page 1008 of our meeting packet.
I'd say that Carver Elementary at the Carver Center, is very excited about this opportunity, and I would like to recognize Stephanie Arnett, the campus principal, and Sarah Burleson, the new Carver Center 501c3 board president. like to recommend that the board authorize Carver Center 501c3 as an in-district charter to manage and operate Carver Center, and authorize the superintendent and board president to make any clarifying revisions or amendments to the document after consultation with the district's general counsel to execute the final document.
I move.
Motion by Mr. Marquez, second by Mr. Murray.
I have a question, Mr. Davis.
Mr. Trustees, go ahead.
Just as a clarification for the record, it doesn't change Carver's status as the GT. Those kids will still have to test. That's still what that campus is for MISD under our umbrella, even though it'll operate as an in-district charter.
Absolutely.
And this is another iteration, or the third example, I think, of the theories of action that we adopted in spring of 2017 to recognize as those campuses that have earned the right to be autonomous, this earned autonomy, that we don't necessarily need a third-party charter operator or program, or nor do we need a new idea to improve the campus, but we do need to recognize those campuses that are functioning well, operating well at a high exemplary level, but give them more autonomy to try and do even better and improve upon them. And so this is an example of that theory in action that's being put in action with this action item tonight.
I do have a comment too, Mr. President. As far as even the students at Carver, I still stand on my belief as far as with those students as well, as far as the recess is concerned.
Do you want them to speak to what their existing practice is?
Please, yes, sir.
Okay. Ms. Barnett, welcome. Thanks for coming.
Good evening. Our current recess policy is, we have not established with our board as far as an actual recess policy what it's going to be, but we already have implemented an extended recess this year, and some of our grades get more than 30 minutes of recess.
And are you a proponent of have you seen good results? Are you happy with the expanded time that you've given and seeing the positive impact that's had on the students?
Yes, sir. Our students and teachers.
All right, great.
So this has been a discussion brought up that I would say it's a prime example of a community member that has brought it up to the forefront in a very caring way, and I think it shows that we don't need a policy per se for everything that we're looking for. And you know, as people have testified tonight, that they're willing to support it and go beyond. And you know, I think that's wonderful as a district that we've come to that point that we can discuss things and people come to an agreement without putting us in the box per se of coming up with policies. So part of the autonomy is undoing some policies so we can move faster and better. So you know, I just want to thank the public, community members that have strived for this, and you know, the discussion that's been had has been awesome. And I feel like we've come to a point that we're in agreement that we can have recess without having a policy involved. So, thank you.
I know the conversation doesn't need to turn about recess, but I just would like, I think that Carver and those that have spoken are a best practices example. I don't necessarily think there's anything wrong with a policy establishing a minimum standard, because for every Carver, you're going to have campuses that aren't meeting that threshold. And so while they have earned the autonomy, perhaps there are campuses out there that haven't. So I appreciate the point, but I would flesh that out a little further, and this isn't the discussion for that. But
certainly the thoughtful leader that you were referencing would like a policy on this matter. So, Mr. Marquez, just to be clear,
no,
I feel certain that I can speak for her in that respect.
I've heard a lot of points over it,
Okay. All right. No, I understand. But to be fair to her, okay. And others that support that.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Getting back to this action item. With that question answered, thank you, Ms. Barnett, thank you. Any other questions or discussion about this particular action item? All right, all those in favor, please raise your right hand. It's unanimous. Thank you. All right. Next, item 6N, performance contract for Carver Center, 501c3, to operate and manage Carver Center.
So moved.
Information on this begins on page 1132 of our meeting packet for this evening. Motion by Mr. Kennedy. Second by Mr. Murray.
And just to let you know, this was the most updated has been locked in. If you don't mind approving that, please.
Oh, that's right. That's the other one that's been provided.
Very minimal changes.
All right, any questions or comments? All those in favor, please raise your right hand. It's unanimous. Thank you very much. And thank you, Carver. Appreciate it. Thank you, board. All right. Item 6O, Midland ISD, Senate Bill 1882, Texas Partnership Benefits Application for Midland College, Pre-K, IDEA Public Schools, Young Women's Leadership Academy, Milam International Academy, Carver Center, Reach Network Schools, Goddard Junior High, and Bunch Elementary.
Just for the benefit of people in the audience, this is an opportunity as authorizing in-district charters and performance contracts. We now have the opportunity to meet the April 1st deadline for submission to Senate Bill 1882 benefits. This will provide some extra dollars toward these campuses to support their innovative models. So at this time, I would like to recommend that the board approve the Midland ISD Texas Partnership Benefits application to receive SB 1882 benefits beginning in the 2019-2020 school year for Midland College Pre-K Charter, Milam International Academy, Goddard Junior High, Bunch Elementary, Carver Center, Young Women's Leadership Academy, and then beginning in the 2020-2021 school year for Travis Elementary.
I move.
Motion by Mr. Marquez. Second by Mr. Kennedy.
President Davis, I have a question. You've told me, and I've talked myself out of it, Ms. Cal. I want to make sure I don't get it wrong. If awarded, the dollars are granted to MISD and then passed to the charters, not.
That is correct.
Okay.
That April 1st deadline in order to qualify, it's another reason to thank Educate Midland and to the Carver board for all their efforts and willingness to step forward so that we can comply with these deadlines. Things have moved quickly to make this happen, but we couldn't do it without y'all having said yes, and for all your efforts in forming the 501c3 at Carver. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. I would also like to express my thanks to this entire group over here because they're sick of me coming to their office and asking for an answer in 5 minutes. So this could not have happened without them and Mr. Lee's leadership and, of course, your board's spirit of action and our movement.
Yes, thank you all for all the work that went into it, all the thought that went into it, all the specificity that went into it, all the think-through that went through it. I know it was a lot of time and effort. I know, Ms. Kale, you're sick of looking at contracts. I'm sure there are many others that are sick of looking at contracts, but I know everyone is excited, notwithstanding the effort, how excited that the end result will be having those contracts signed, and now with this application filed. Thank you very much. Thanks to everybody. All right, this is an action item. Y'all ready for a vote? All those in favor, please raise your right hand. It's unanimous. Thank you very much. All right. Last and certainly not least is item 6P, lease agreement for IDEA Public Schools. The information on this item is on page 1194 of our meeting packet for this evening.
This is the last page of my slide. But to meet the school board's theory of action, we're in the process of developing and negotiating a lease agreement with IDEA Public Schools. The terms of this lease would run coterminous with the partnership contract, and we are working with in-house counsel and contracted legal representation on this process. At this time, we would like to recommend that the board authorize the superintendent to enter into a lease agreement with ID Public Schools.
I move.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Marquez, second by Mr. Bishop.
So, again, I know you covered a lot of ground with me, and I appreciate it. We can enter into a lease for the building, but like HVAC, plumbing, that's still going to fall to MISD. All those
Pieces that we speak to operationally are negotiated all in the contract, and it's still our building, and we still begin to handle what those services are, and there's a process for the organizations to put forward work orders for us to be able to tackle those things.
Any other questions? Go ahead.
So, so after this lengthy list and the massive amount of work that's gone in to get there, right now the moment of the system of great schools is just born. So, to me, it's a quite proud moment that we've moved this far in 2 years. And so as a community, as a district, there's been a lot of work done for Midland ISD to get here. I would say that we look forward to your support, continued support, as we continue to build this system, and I think that you're going to be proud of the system of great schools for Midland. So.
Ready for the vote? All those in favor, please raise your right hand. It's unanimous. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Davis and board. And just one item I left off that does not require a vote. But just to let you know that today we submitted an application to the agency for a $1 million continuation grant to support Milam College pre-K children.
Great. Thank you very much. In fact, I look forward with the work that's going on and all this work that's going to happen and is happening. I look forward to the day where the applause after every action item is the norm, not the exception. But thank you all for coming. It is now 7:33 p.m. and we will go into closed session in accordance with Government Code Section 551.071 through .074. Also Section 551.076, .0821 through .082, 551.083 through .084. We have concluded our closed meeting and are now reconvening in open session. The date is still March 25, 2019, and the time is, what time is it?
11:33.
11:33. Now that the board has heard the grievance, the board has 4 options, really 5 options. 1, it may grant the grievance and provide appropriate relief. 2, it may deny the grievance and uphold the decision of the administration at level 2. 3, it may grant the grievance in part and deny the grievance in part, modifying the decision of the administration at level 2. Or 4, it may make no decision. Or 5, the board may also postpone its decision until the next regularly scheduled board meeting. Board, do I have a motion regarding the disposition of this grievance presentation?
I move that we uphold requests 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 7 of Mrs. Scott's request.
And specifically, when you say uphold, that you want to grant the grievance and provide the relief requested?
Yes, that those be granted.
Okay. Motion by Mr. Fuller. Is there a second? All right. That motion dies for lack of a second. Are there any other motions? All right, hearing no motions, then no decision has been made, and we are going to move to action item 8B, teacher contract abandonment. 1, good cause did not exist for resignation, and 2, 1195 complaint and request for sanction to TEA regarding H. Baker. Mr. Bailey?
Board members presented information on H. Baker and presenting for sanctions due to just cause not committing resignation beyond penalty of review.
It's an action item.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Bishop, second by Mr. Kennedy. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. It's unanimous. Thank you. All right, we are now adjourned at 11:35 p.m. Thank you.